I find you annoying.
Not the face!
Known as one of the most iconic video game franchises of all time, Mortal Kombat was first launched by Midway Games in 1992. Since then, it's expanded into a franchise filled with action-adventure games, comic series, card games, films, and animated television series. Over the course of many years, this franchise has introduced us to a range of notorious villains, ranging from General Shao and Shang Tsung to other names such as Kano and Mileena. Today, we'll explore all of the major Mortal Kombat villains and tell you everything about them.
You were meant to be. Alright, you big ugly fuck.
1. Shao Kahn, General Shao. Also known as General Shao, Shao Kahn is known as the most powerful tyrant of the Outworld throne, and he stirred up a whole lot of trouble in Mortal Kombat 2. He soon became one of the most celebrated villains in the series, and he even overshadowed all the other characters to emerge as one of the main antagonists alongside Shang Tsung and Shinnok. Shao Kahn was essentially the former emperor of Outworld, and he had godlike powers and the appearance of an Asian warrior. He was also known for his cruel nature, and he didn't shy away from brutality and personal executions while leading his warriors on the front lines. Shao Kahn's knowledge of the dark arts also made him a terrifying opponent, as he was capable of consuming and manipulating his victims' souls. He was known for his signature armor, hammer, and a demonic helmet, and he established himself as the new ruler of Outworld after killing Princess Kitana's father, Jared, and even corrupting her mother, Sindel. Soon after, Shao Kahn's reign over the kingdom of Edenia drove Sindel to commit suicide, but Shang Tsung soon brought her back to life so that Shao Kahn could parade around with her. Eventually, Shao Kahn tricked Quan Chi and Shang Tsung into thinking that he had died, but he ended up partnering with them to kill Onaga and become the ruler of the Outworld. Nobody matched Shao Kahn's obsession with the throne, and his willingness to resort to violence to keep himself in power made him one of the deadliest players in the game.
Your brother's soul is mine. You will be next.
2. Shang Tsung. Before Shao Kahn entered the scene, Shang Tsung was the OG Mortal Kombat villain and has even been credited with kickstarting the franchise. Tsung was essentially a powerful, soul-stealing sorcerer who hosted the traditional Mortal Kombat tournaments and often aimed for more and more wins as an opportunity to attack other realms. He typically worked with his prize fighter Goro until Liu Kang stepped up to fight for Earth and represent the Shaolin monks. Tsung's rivalry with Liu Kang shaped some of the key storylines within the Mortal Kombat universe, but Tsung's reputation as a fearsome villain was eventually shattered when it was revealed that he was merely one of Kahn's pawns. However, this does not discredit all of his stealth and wisdom, and he was widely known for his trademark trickery and fireball skulls that inflicted fear into his opponent's mind. He could also absorb his victims' souls in order to boost his power and decrease his age, and he was determined to use his enemy's essence to make himself immortal. Eventually, he started allying with pretty much anyone who would ally with him to defeat Shao Kahn, and there is no doubt that he was far smarter than his old master. Tsung patiently waited for the right moment to overpower Kahn and betray him, and he even gained godlike powers when he wore Kronika's crown and briefly became a keeper of time. He is even known as the epitome of evil, and he didn't hesitate to turn on anyone to fulfill his agenda, as seen when he turned on Quan Chi right after they defeated Raiden, or when he betrayed Shao Kahn and Sindel before absorbing their souls. 3. Quan Chi. Quan Chi made his debut in the animated Mortal Kombat series before finally establishing himself as one of the most terrorizing Netherrealm demons in the franchise. He was introduced as a demonic entity best known for his necromancy powers, and he served as an enemy to the Earthrealm as well as the Outer Realm. Quan Chi was known for serving the fallen elder god Shinnok and striking up the deadly alliance with Shang Tsung. His cunning nature, high intelligence, and calculated tricks made him one of the most formidable opponents in the franchise, and he was known for manipulating anyone in his path to push his agenda. He had also made enemies out of Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and very few names such as Shinnok, Shao Kahn, Delia, and Shang Tsung were capable of matching his abilities or overpowering him. For the most part, Quan Chi used his sorcery to overtake the Earth Realm as well as all of reality, and he was blessed with the ability to create powerful undead warriors called the Revenants. Even though he served Shinnok, he was obsessed with his Amulet of Power, one of the many instances where Quan Chi didn't hesitate to stab his allies in the back for his own benefit.
Your death has no worth.
4. Mileena. Created by Shang Tsung as part of a genetic experiment, Mileena was introduced as a katana clone who came to life via Tarkatan physiology. She was also known as one of Shao Kahn's adopted daughters, and she was essentially an extension of all the evil that he represented. Mileena first appeared in Mortal Kombat 2 as a playable character, and remained to be a secondary antagonist throughout the series. Shao Kahn had created her just in case Katana would learn the truth about him and betray him, and she was a complete foil to her own inspiration. This essentially meant that she was a sadistic, evil, and hot-tempered character who often used her beauty to flirt with her opponents to get their guard down. She was a fusion between Tarkatan blood and Edenian physiology, which meant she had the best attributes of both these races, including enhanced speed, brute strength, acrobatic prowess, and so on. She typically fought with her signature pair of sais and a razor-sharp Tarkatan maw, and she even ruled over Outworld for a brief period of time after Shao Kahn's defeat. Mileena had secretly desired the throne for the longest time, and she even detested Katana, even though she was essentially cloned to be her evil counterpart. Even though she did rise to power, her reign was short-lived, and she was soon overthrown by Kotal Khan and executed by Devora.
Now I tear out your spine.
5. Goro. Also known as the Prince of the Shokan and a former winner of the Mortal Kombat tournament, Goro is undoubtedly one of the most memorable villains in the entire franchise. Even though he makes a few recurring appearances as Shang Tsung's ally, he is quite well loved among fans, and he initially defeated Kung Lao to win the 9th tournament before finally losing to Liu Kang. This defeat prevented Earth's invasion, and Goro then perceived himself as a fallen prince who was obliged to redeem himself in the eyes of his followers. Soon enough, this dragon hybrid warrior realigned with Shao Kahn to safeguard the Shokan's future, but his ambitions were far too big, and he was confident that he would usurp him. He then decided to attack Kotal Khan and exert his power over Outworld after Shao Kahn's death. But he lost the fight against Kotal, who is still processing his father's death, to safeguard the Shokan's future. After his defeat, the Shokan ended up exiling him, and he stayed under the radar for quite some time while he plotted his next scheme and worked with the Red Dragon to punish those who had dared to banish him. 6. Kano. Known as one of the most infamous mercenaries in the franchise, Kano was the leader of the Black Dragon clan and an OG villain who debuted in the first Mortal Kombat arcade game. He ran an arms-dealing ring and several criminal operations between Earthrealm and the Outer World, and he was especially introduced as Sonya Blade's arch-nemesis. He often tried to kill Blade and Jax Briggs from Earth's Special Forces, which also brought him in contact with Sonya's husband, Johnny Cage, and daughter Cassie. He has been a recurring antagonist throughout the franchise, and he used weapons such as butterfly knives, elbow blades, and grenades to defeat his opponents. Over time, his cutthroat mentality and ambition led him to Shao Kahn, who appointed him as a general to his armies. He also had a cybernetic metal faceplate and a bionic eye, which included an infrared eye laser, as well as a cybernetic heart that kept pumping even after the most fatal attacks. Kano was known as one of the most invulnerable mercenaries in Mortal Kombat, and he sold his services to just about anyone as long as they were in a position of power. He also betrayed his allies to climb up the ladder, such as the time he offered to fight for Kotal Khan against Goro's army after Shao Kahn had been dethroned. 7. Sindel. Sindel was largely known for her kind and benevolent nature in the original timeline, even though she might have a slightly threatening appearance. She would rule over the realm of Edenia with her daughter, Princess Kitana, and she had a regal attitude that made her the perfect candidate to be the Queen of Edenia. She was also known for her affinity with aerial magic and ability to levitate and manipulate sonic waves. However, her origins were retconned in Mortal Kombat 11, which stated that she had evil intent all along, and she had only put up an act to protest her union with Shao Kahn in order to win over the Edenians' loyalty. She seemingly resented King Jared for trading away their powers, and desired Shao Kahn for the way he asserted his dominance over Edenia. This was a bit of a shocker for fans who had followed her since her debut, wherein she was brainwashed by Shao Kahn to switch over to the dark side. However, her character went through quite a makeover in the alternate timeline, where she was depicted as a power-hungry ruler who would not stop at anything to keep her place on the throne, even if it meant that she had to kill King Jared. As far as complex female characters go, Sindel is one of the most intriguing villains in Mortal Kombat history, and she has successfully achieved many impressive feats with her soft power and politics. 8. Reptile. Also known as Sizop, Reptile was essentially a humanoid reptilian entity from the realm of Zatara. He remains one of the most well-recognized characters in the series, even though he was depicted as a mindless lackey in most of his appearances. He was a neutral character whose unwavering loyalty to Shang Tsung turned him into an antagonist, but this acid-spitting ninja eventually took fans by surprise when he stepped up from a mindless spy to one of Kotal Khan's most loyal followers. Reptile spent most of his story arc as a pawn in Shao Kahn, Shinnok, and Natara's grand schemes. He eventually stumbled upon Onaga's egg and was used as a vessel for the Dragon King's rebirth. After detaching himself from this, he found himself wandering the realms aimlessly until he came across Kotal Khan and helped him defeat Mileena. Even though Reptile was known for often changing his leaders, he was one of the most loyal followers one could ask for, and he blindly devoted himself to them, even if it meant risking his own life.
Do not underestimate the power of the human spirit.
9. Shinnok. Shinnok, or the fallen elder god of death, is arguably one of the most vengeful characters in the history of the Mortal Kombat franchise. He is known for seeking death and destruction across all the realms, and ruled over the Netherrealm with an iron fist. Unlike most villains, Shinnok relied on dark powers and ancient artifacts to bring his opponents to their knees, and he also had the ability to manipulate his appearance, transform into a demon, or even manipulate large-scale events. For instance, he brainwashed Quan Chi into convincing Shao Kahn to merge the Earthrealm with the Outworld, so that both the realms would be weakened enough for him to orchestrate the Netherrealm's invasion. It was also revealed that Shinnok was one of Kronika's children, and that she had intended for him to fight against his sister, Cetrion, forever. This was Kronika's way of ensuring a balance between the light and dark forces. But this plan did not work out as well as she had hoped. Shinnok's thirst for power even led him to threaten genocide upon those who refused to follow his orders with unwavering loyalty, and he didn't hesitate to kill anyone who raised as much as an eyebrow in response to his schemes.
The realms to oblivion.
10. Kronika. Even though Kronika has been a part of only one Mortal Kombat game, her contribution to the franchise's lore is so significant that it explained why everything that had happened in the series had happened. Known as a Titaness and the Keeper of Time, Kronika was responsible for setting up the events in all the realms as per what she deemed fit, and she even created Elder Gods Cetrion and Shinnok. She appears in Mortal Kombat 11 as a non-playable boss and the main antagonist, and she was the only one capable of tampering with time to the point where she could merge the past with the present. She had also allegedly restarted the timeline on numerous occasions to ensure that the storylines moved perfectly. But this came at a great cost, as her drive for perfection eventually drove her to insanity. She even created the Deadly Alliance and set Shang Tsung and Quan Chi to become powerful sorcerers, a decision that backfired for all of the realms and unintentionally led to war and chaos. 11. Baraka. Introduced as the general of the Tarkatan Horde, Baraka was a major antagonist throughout the Mortal Kombat series, where he served the Outworld and worked directly under Mileena and Shao Kahn. He was known for his signature blades that were embedded in his hands and were capable of slashing through just about anyone or anything. He was launched as the first playable Tarkatan in the series in Mortal Kombat 2, and he waged war against the Shaolin in his earlier appearances before eventually working with Quan Chi and Shinnok after Shao Kahn's downfall. At the end of the day, Baraka served no one but himself, and he even fell out with the others over his thirst for power. He then went on to recruit Mileena to fight for Onaga's claim to Outworld, but he eventually decided that Mileena was more worthy of being the ruler. However, they could not realize this mission when Devoris stepped into the picture and killed him to establish his seat on the Outworld's throne. Even though he was a major antagonist, Baraka's character is often recognized for his honest nature, as he went from being a lackey to desiring power to finally realizing that he was better off working with other powerful rulers, such as Mileena. 12. Motaro. Motaro was first introduced in Mortal Kombat 3, where he served as the sub-boss and represented the Centaurians. His species was defined by their appearance, which included the body of a stallion with the torso of a man, and he also had a metallic tail and Capricorn-like horns, in addition to mystical powers and hunting skills. Like other Centaurians, Motaro was driven by his hatred towards the Shao Kahn, and he often clashed with them to emerge as the superior species in front of Shao Kahn. He is also known as one of the most difficult bosses in the Mortal Kombat series because he relies on teleportation and fireball explosions to decrease the player's energies and wear them out. 13. Onaga. Also known as the Dragon King, Onaga debuted in Mortal Kombat Deception as the long-dead ruler of Outworld. While his origins were shrouded in mystery, it was revealed that he had died an untimely death and that he had been mummified and stored in an ancient tomb until Quan Chi stumbled upon him. Quan Chi then used his necromancy powers to bring him back to life, and he's considered to be one of the most crucial characters of the franchise through whom the One Being flows. As a result of these features, Onaga has supernatural strength, the ability to raise the dead, and complete resistance to all forms of magic, which makes him one of the most feared beings in Outworld. In Mortal Kombat Armageddon, Onaga agreed to serve under Shinnok to escape the Netherrealm and soon turned on him to acquire Blaze's power for himself. In the new timeline, it was said that General Shao tried to release him from his imprisonment in the hopes that he would help them defeat Mileena to regain control over Outworld. 14. Havik. Havik was introduced as the reigning cleric of chaos, and he first made his debut in Mortal Kombat Deception. His origins can be traced to the Chaos Realm, and he was intent on bringing chaos to the other realms to upset the balance of the order. His sole purpose was to bring about pain and chaos, and he had allied with Reiko and served as one of his most loyal servants in the Mortal Kombat X comics. He also used Reiko for his own gain by convincing him that he was destined to becoming a blood god, and he even helped him reach this position before dropping the other shoe and brutally killing him under the pretense of the Blood Code. In Mortal Kombat 1, Havik appears as a minor antagonist who tries to bring chaos to the Order Realm and set the Cydo free, and while he was not as chaotic as his original appearance, a mid-credit scene suggested that he was set to return as a major antagonist in future works. 15. Cetrion. Created by Kronika, Cetrion was the elder goddess of life, virtue, and light, and was essentially introduced to balance out the evil caused by her brother Shinnok. She was a playable sub-boss in Mortal Kombat 11, but she did assume the role of a tertiary antagonist in the game's story mode. Even though she was supposed to represent the good in the world, Kronika eventually led Cetrion to turn on the other elder gods and even kill them after Raiden had killed Shinnok. Cetrion then rose to this occasion and revealed her true personality as someone who did not hesitate for a second before committing atrocities if it meant she could fulfill her mother's vision. Unfortunately, she grew weaker and weaker with time, as she was not originally created to tread a path of evil. But this did not hinder her from serving Kronika. In fact, she was so blinded by her loyalty to her mother that she even killed herself and gave up her essence to give Kronika more power. 16. Kollector. Introduced as a debt collector, Kollector was essentially the personal banker of Shao Kahn and a minor antagonist in Mortal Kombat 11. He aided Shao Kahn's tyrannical plans to rule the Outworld, and used weapons such as a chained mace, sickles, shuttles, and a mystic beacon in combat. He had a skinny stature and 6 arms, as well as blue-colored skin, but he possessed a whole lot of power even if he appeared harmless. While Kollector had dedicated himself to Shao Kahn, he was consumed by his greed, and he would not stop at anything to rise through the ranks and maintain his wealthy status. He belonged to the race of Nakanda, who were the slaves to the Khan, and just like other members of his species, he was named after his profession as Shao Kahn's loyal tax keeper and collector. 17. Reiko. Known for his grim and stoic appearance, Reiko was famously known for his brutal nature and ambition towards ruling the Outworld. He was known as a typical ninja archetype in Mortal Kombat 4, and he eventually rose in ranks to appear as a major antagonist in the Mortal Kombat X series. Here, he managed to seduce Mileena and eventually brainwash her so that he could fulfill his destiny as a blood god of the realms. With Shao Kahn out of the picture, he also hoped to rise in ranks and attain the throne of Outworld, and he even used Havik's dark magic and several warrior sacrifices to become a blood god. He typically used weapons such as shurikens and the crude hammer, and he was also known for luring his opponents into traps through his war tactics and strategies as opposed to using brute force. However, this does not mean that he cannot hold his own in a one-on-one fight, and he has defeated the likes of Kotal Khan, the Ashtek, and Devora on several occasions. 18. Daegon. First introduced in Mortal Kombat Armageddon, Daegon was the son of the Edenian god Argus and the prophet Delia, who had predicted the future of the realms as Armageddon. To save the world from this fate, Argus placed Daegon and his brother Taven into incubation so that they could be awakened in the future to save the realms from Blaze and Armageddon. When Daegon finally woke up, he was shocked when he learned the reasons why he had been put to sleep, and he ended up murdering his parents in a fit of rage. He even proceeded to send his red dragon to kill his brother Taven when he woke up, and he was later responsible for killing Kenshi's lover and Takeda's mother as well. 19. Blaze. As the name suggests, Blaze was known for his ability to control fire, heat, and lava, and was an elemental being from Outworld. He was covered in flames in all of his appearances, and he initially debuted as a background and a hidden character before finally assuming his role as a final boss in Mortal Kombat Armageddon. It was said that Onaga's followers had transformed him into a fire elemental, hoping he would protect the egg that would eventually lead to Onaga's rebirth. In this state, Blaze became one of the most powerful warriors in the franchise, and he soon ended up clashing with Daegon and Taven over the power to control the realms. However, he was not inherently evil, and he had only single-handedly caused Armageddon after he grew tired of being chained to the responsibility of guarding the egg. He then decided to use his powers to bring about Armageddon by devouring existence to put an end to the reign of bloodthirsty rulers who did not care for innocent lives or war in their pursuit of power. 20. Devora. Introduced as a treacherous Chitin, Devora first appeared in Mortal Kombat X as a lethal warrior who rose in ranks to become a major threat in no time. She belonged to a species of colonial insects that made homes out of humanoid bodies, and she served under Shao Kahn's rule after he took control over her realm. Devora was quite a fierce warrior who refused to submit to authority and become a slave, and instead, she worked her way up to eventually become a general. At the end of the day, she was quite cunning, and she switched over to work for Kotal Kahn as one of his advisors when she realized that it was a better opportunity. She worked with him during the civil war against Mileena and even offered her swarm of insects to attack their victims. One of Devora's most iconic moments involved her killing Baraka, which essentially solidified Kotal Kahn's reign while proving that Devora was here to stay. However, she continued to prioritize her interests over any of her rulers, and even secretly worked with Quan Chi in future story arcs. 21. Tanya. While Tanya was initially introduced as a deceiving Edenian, fans were quite unsurprised when they learned she was one of Shinnok's disciples. Her femme fatale personality, paired with her tendency to align herself with evil forces, made her one of the most formidable villains in Mortal Kombat history. Eventually, it was revealed that she also worked with Quan Chi's Brotherhood of Shadow, but she soon defected to serve Shao Kahn after Shinnok had been defeated. In this way, Tanya would work with just about anybody if it ensured her survival, and she was also affiliated with the Deadly Alliance and Onaga at one point. She appeared in a typical ninja avatar and had a yellow and black costume, and she was known for her combat skills and pyrokinetic powers. 22. Ermac. And finally, we're wrapping up this list with Ermac, a ninja warrior who first appeared in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. While he has worked with some major antagonists, Ermac was typically depicted as a neutral character who would join hands with anybody who wanted to rule over Outworld to make it a better place. Shao Kahn essentially fused the souls of those who had been killed in Outworld's wars to bring Ermac to life, making him quite an interesting entity in the Mortal Kombat universe. While Shao Kahn retained control over him, Ermac had the ability to perform telekinesis, engage in physical combat, and even travel between realms. And a blind swordsman named Kenshi eventually helped them break free from Shao Kahn's control. Ermac then went on to free some other souls as a form of redemption, but eventually he did end up allying with Mileena to do major damage to Outworld before coming to terms with his mistakes and aligning with Kotal Kahn instead. Marvelous verdict. And with that, we've ranked all the major Mortal Kombat villains, from the terrorizing General Shao to other underrated antagonists such as Reiko and Blaze. While some of these entities have done far more damage to the realms than others, they all have their unique personalities and villain origin stories, and some of them have even turned over a new leaf. We hope you enjoyed exploring them with us, and we'd love to know if your favorite made the cut in the comments below.